last 8 years, I've witnessed the whole cycle of life-changing injury. I only begin to imagine how challenging the journey of recovery is, but the admiration I have for these men and women to move beyond their injuries.
He founded a movement, a global sporting event for the world's most courageous men and women, soldiers broken in body but unbroken in spirit. He gave it a name taken from a Victorian poem about defying fate, Invictus, unconquered. But tonight, according to a bombshell new book, the man who created the Invictus Games has, in a very real sense, disappeared, and in his place, a brand, a California operation, a couple's promotional machine. This is a forensic examination of the most incendiary royal biography published in years, Tom Bower's Betrayal, Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family, released March 26, 2026. It shot to #1 on Amazon before a single copy hit shelves. The Sussexes called it deranged conspiracy and melodrama. Tom Bower called that response very helpful indeed. Let's go through the claims one by one, the evidence, the rebuttals, and the questions that remain unanswered. The serialization of Betrayal in the Times opened with a striking line. Meghan's brainwashed Harry, Camilla told a friend. 5 words, allegedly spoken in private by the Queen consort. And according to Bower, they were not spoken carelessly. They were the conclusion of a woman watching something unfold over years. So what exactly is Bower's evidence? Let's reconstruct his timeline forensically. According to Bower, William had cautioned Harry before his engagement that his relationship with the American actress was progressing too quickly. The author claims William was skeptical of Meghan from the outset, a view Catherine reportedly shared, because both believed Harry had experienced a troubled period. Then came the rupture. Bower writes that although Meghan's decisiveness appealed to Harry, it worried William and Catherine, who allegedly felt she was dissatisfied with her role in London, unhappy about Harry's limited prospects of becoming king, and resentful that she would never be queen. And then, Bower's most shocking claim yet on this thread, the alleged transformation of Harry himself. In Bower's own words, to please her, Harry was ignoring his old friends. He even changed his telephone number without telling his family. The jovial lad about town became possessed by seeking revenge. Increasingly, his character mirrored Meghan's. Emotionally, he veered toward extremes. Simple dislikes became passionate hatred. And it is that passage, that portrait of a man altered, which Bower says gave rise to Camilla's alleged verdict to a confidante. Now, it is vital that we be precise here. This is a reported private remark, attributed via anonymous sourcing. Bower does not name the friend. The palace has made no comment, and the Sussexes have not specifically denied this particular claim, only attacked the book wholesale. But here is the forensic detail that makes this stick in the public consciousness. Bower's 2022 book Revenge, a forensic account of the Sussexes' departure from royal duties, attracted not a single legal challenge, despite both Harry and Meghan's well-documented willingness to litigate. Their lawyers were furnished with advance copies, not one writ arrived. That silence, legal observers note, is itself a form of evidence. This is where it gets serious, not palace gossip, not whispered remarks between confidantes. This is an allegation about the integrity of a charity and the fate of the people who try to protect it. The Invictus Games were founded in 2014 by Prince Harry as a Paralympic-style tournament for wounded and recovering military veterans. The mission was as pure as any cause can be, to use sport as a vehicle for rehabilitation, to show the world that those broken by conflict could compete, could triumph, could be unconquered. But Bower's investigation into the Vancouver 2025 Games paints a deeply troubling picture. According to Betrayal, Meghan traveled to Vancouver by private jet, and organizers were instructed to address her as Ma'am and Harry as Sir, directions said to have been communicated by the game's chief executive Nick Booth. Who is Nick Booth? That question leads us to Bauer's most explosive Invictus allegation. Bauer claims that Booth had been parachuted into the post after the dismissal of two Canadian executives, both of whom had resented the pushy Sussexes. He alleges the ousted pair regarded Meghan as a distraction from the injured veterans, with one protesting, "She's Bling, not rehabilitation." Let that land for a moment. Two executives, people who had dedicated their professional lives to building the games, allegedly pushed out because they resisted the Sussex influence, replaced by a chief executive who then reportedly instructed staff to address Meghan as Ma'am. And Bauer goes further. He quotes Dominic Reed, then head of the Invictus Foundation, as having been concerned about the event being perceived as the Harry and Meghan show. This is not an anonymous source. Dominic Reed is a named real individual with a documented role in the game's leadership. The Invictus Games Foundation has issued a rebuttal, not to the specific claim about the executives, but to Bauer's characterization of the games more broadly. A spokesperson said, "Attempts to question the legitimacy of competitors or diminish the experiences of those living with both physical injuries and invisible wounds such as PTSD are deeply disrespectful to the men and women the games were created for." That is a powerful statement. It is also worth noting that it does not address the dismissed executives. It does not address the Ma'am instruction. It does not address the description of Meghan as a distraction. And here is a data point that sits independently of Bauer entirely. As of this week, the Invictus Games, scheduled for Birmingham in 2027, is still advertising for a head of marketing and communications on LinkedIn, with under a year to go. One anonymous source close to the recruitment process told reporters, "No one good will take this on." The palace, sources suggest, is watching the Birmingham Games with considerable unease. The third strand of Bauer's case is perhaps the most poignant because it is not about power or politics. It is about a man. Bauer depicts Harry as increasingly detached from Britain, with reduced charitable involvement and an enduring estrangement from William and Catherine. We have already heard the claim about the changed phone number and the ignored friends, but the institutional withdrawal is where the forensic paper trail becomes compelling. Centerville. For those who don't know the name, you should. Harry established it in 2006 to support children orphaned by the HIV/AIDS crisis in Lesotho. It was for many years considered his most genuine and sustained philanthropic commitment, the one that predated Meghan, predated Spare, predated California. Bauer details how, by March 2025, Harry, his co-founder Prince Seeiso, and the entire board of trustees resigned from Centerville. The fallout had been catastrophic. The charity's new chair, Sophie Chandauka, reportedly told Harry directly, "People don't want to be associated with your Netflix shows, and especially not with Meghan." Harry reportedly responded by comparing himself to Johnny Depp, still a box office draw despite controversy. The charity, facing the loss of major donors including Audi, began restructuring its London office and scaling back operations. So that is Centerville gone. And Bauer's scrutiny extends to Archewell. According to Betrayal, the Archewell Foundation's reported income declined while expenses remained high. The organization was subsequently renamed Archewell Philanthropies, and some initiatives were transferred to a group called Parents Together, a shift presented by the Sussexes as an expansion of their charitable reach, but interpreted by critics as a retreat from their earlier philanthropic ambitions. Staff departures from the organization, Bauer notes, have also been significant. The picture Bauer assembles across these three claims is of a man who arrived in America with deep roots in the British military community, in African charitable work, in a family, and who, one institutional tie at a time, severed or lost each of them. In the interest of forensic balance, we must now give the Sussexes their full say. In a former statement, Harry and Meghan said Bauer had long crossed the line from criticism into fixation, adding, "This is someone who has publicly stated the monarchy in fact depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life, language that speaks for itself. He has made a career out of constructing ever more elaborate theories about people he does not know and has never met. Those interested in facts will look elsewhere. Those seeking deranged conspiracy and melodrama know exactly where to find him. That is a serious allegation against an author that his motivations are ideological rather than journalistic. And it deserves scrutiny too. Bauer has publicly stated that he believes the monarchy's survival depends on neutralizing the Sussex brand. That is a stated position on record. Critics argue it reveals a bias that colors his sourcing and framing. The Invictus Games Foundation offered its own pushback, stressing that the Games exist to support the recovery and rehabilitation of wounded service personnel and veterans, and calling any attempt to question competitors' legitimacy deeply disrespectful. And the US Warrior Games director David Pascal publicly defended Harry, telling reporters that American team members had both visible and invisible impairments, including several competitors with below-the-knee amputations or lower limb function loss, directly contradicting one of Bauer's more inflammatory passages about the Vancouver basketball match. These rebuttals matter. They are evidence of a kind, but observers have noted, including those sympathetic to the Sussexes, that neither the couple nor the foundation has specifically addressed the dismissed Canadian executives, the Mammon Struction, the Centre Bail collapse, or the Aqua restructuring. Here is what we know, beyond disputes. Two Canadian executives were ousted from the Invictus Games. A new chief executive was installed, who reportedly told staff to address Meghan as Ma'am. Centre Bail, Harry's oldest charitable cause, collapsed in early 2025 after Harry resigned from its board. The Archewell Foundation has been restructured, renamed and reduced. And an author with a 4-decade legal record of successfully defending his published claims has put all of this on record, under his own name, in a book that is now #1 on Amazon. Whether you read Betrayal as forensic journalism or political hit job will likely depend on what you already believe about Harry and Meghan. That is the nature of this story. It always has been. But the man who stood in a stadium in London in 2014 and told wounded veterans that the world is full of brave, remarkable people, that man seems, by every available account, very far from home. Tom Bauer's Betrayal, Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family is published by Bonnier Books UK. The Sussexes have not confirmed or denied the specific claims examined in this video. All allegations are those of the author. As always, investigate for yourself. Always comment and tell me, do you think the Sussexes should address these claims point by point? Drop it below.